All right, everybody, welcome to episode number 18 with my guest, Keyshawn Whitehorse. Keyshawn, how you doing?
Oh, I'm fantastic.
All right, so before we get too far in this, why don't we get the listeners a little bit to know about yourself?
Just from Utah, 23 years old, and a professional bull rider on the PBR.
All right, so how did you find your way into the sport of bull riding?
When I was younger, I was about 5 or so. I seen my dad watching on TV, and from then on, I knew exactly what I wanted to do.
Did you ever have any thought of competing in any other Western sports, or was bull riding always what you had your mind set on?
I always wanted to just ride bulls. I kind of thought about riding bucking horses, but that was just a thought, really. I never actually attempted it. Never really piqued my interest to really get into it fully or anything like that. But now bull riding is the only thing I really wanted to do.
All right, so then also, what was it like walking into a PBR arena for the very first time for you on the Unleash the Beast level?
It was pretty normal. For me, it felt like back in 2012, I was able to become friends with Robson Palermo. So I think it was like, I don't know, I believe I was like around like 14, 15 or so. And he invited me to go to Tulsa with him, and I went behind the chutes and at the BOK Center, and got to see the other guys and get ready and whatnot. So when I did first go, it wasn't anything different to me, and I felt like I belonged there. I worked hard enough to get there, and so it's pretty normal.
All right, so I want to talk about your career a little bit. So what was it like for you winning the velocity event at Lexington, Kentucky that got you your trip to Kansas City?
It was the event win in Lexington was it was big. It was the velocity tour. I had won previous velocity tours before that, but that one I knew felt different. That one I knew I was more prepared than I have been before. And, at that time, my younger brother, that's like his favorite team, collegiate team, is there in Kentucky. And just being able to ride in that same arena as some of the other collegiate best athletes out there and whatnot. And then moving on from there onto the main tour, it impacted me in a good way. It set my confidence level very high to where it needed to be.
So what is that phone call like when you get the phone call that you're about to go to the Unleash the Beast level?
The call is, something that you imagine, your whole life when you're a kid. It was exciting, but also knowing that this is just the beginning. It's not an end. It's not like a relief. It's not like, oh, I made it. It's like, okay, now it's time to really take it up even more than I have been before. So you just keep taking it step by step.
All right, so when you did get your first appearance into the Unleash the Beast in 2018, that's the time of the month or time of the year where it just starts getting hard, like Kansas City, Arlington, everywhere close by that has the greatest bulls in the world. Even though you didn't do that great at the Iron Cowboy that year, what was it like walking into a building like AT&T Stadium for the very first time?
I think the energy in that building is amazing. It's definitely the biggest arena you'd ever be in. I felt pretty comfortable, but also it's one of those things that you can look towards whenever you get older, and you say I rode there and whatnot. It'd be good to see it'd be good to have a foreseeable win there eventually. I think that arenas can produce a great mindset and make sure that you're ready to go, and you get fired up very easily there.
All right, so then, what was it like for your first time to Albuquerque, New Mexico, in the pit, where everybody knows the sport? It's a diehard crowd, and the arena just creates so much noise in there. What is Albuquerque like for you walking in there for the very first time?
Albuquerque for me was a big deal. It was kind of like a hometown kind of thing. I have a lot of family members that don't live too far from there and whatnot, and the energy there is insane. you just feel like everybody's on top of you, and you make a great ride there. It's just like you've won the world or something. All that energy builds up and you have that confidence level that's throughout the roof. And, you know, the fans there know what a good ride is, and they see you make a good ride. You earn a lot of, I guess you could say, respect from the fans there, and not only from the fans, but also from, uh, the stock contractors and other guys riding as well, because I mean Albuquerque is probably one of the hardest events to win throughout the season, just because of location and the energy and such. They always bring really good bulls there, and it's a 3-day event, and so it's a great event, and it can produce something that could spring off into make somebody have the mindset and confidence to move on to winning a world title.
So how much does a crowd fire a guy like you up? Like if it's like a big city where they don't know what's going on and they just get excited over the littlest thing, or like Albuquerque again where you make a great ride and it just goes loud. What is that energy from the crowd like for you?
Pre-ride energy from crowds, it could be really loud and stuff. It can be exciting, but most of the time it's blocked. It's kind of like, you know your job, but post ride, you make a good bull ride and cover, and you hear the fans scream for you. It's probably one of the most addicting feelings. That's out there. You feel like, all the eyes are on you, and you're happy to get the job done, and all the positive energy going out to you at that point in time it's something that you'll never forget. That feeling never gets old, and you only want it to happen over and over again.
All right. So then back to 2018, what was it like for you to compete at the last Cowboy Stadium in 2018 in the Thomas and Mack Arena? And then also, what was it like knowing that was probably the last time the PBR is ever going to go to that arena?
The bull riding there, the Thomas and Mack. I mean, growing up, it was always something that every kid knows. Any kid that wants to make it to the PBR knows. Or really good fans know that that's where a lot of history was made. So being able to compete there, and it being the last time that they bucked bulls for the PBR there, was something to take in. It was something that I enjoyed and cherished, and knowing that a lot of the guys that I watched when I was younger ride, um, when I was younger, all the guys I watched growing up, and all the legendary rides that happened in there, and all the world titles won in there. It was something that kind of come full circle. I was just a young kid, and then now I'm old enough to ride there, and I made my way there, and it was something that I will remember the rest of my life.
So this weekend, the PBR is in Del Rio, Texas, as we're doing this podcast. So was it like getting to compete in historic venues like that tomorrow, or like the Thomas and Mack, Cheyenne? Was it like getting to compete in arenas like that where there's so much rodeo history right behind it?
I think it's amazing. I mean, if it wasn't for some unfortunate circumstances, we probably wouldn't be riding here. But being able to ride here at this arena where a lot of great rides had taken place, and a lot of great riders had been, and it's something that will go down in history for me. That's for sure. Just there's expected to be good rides just because of all the history here. That's just the way it is. And so you know you got Tev Hedeman and all those other guys that rode here previously. You come here excited to be here, and excited to be in a venue that they once performed in. So I'm pretty excited to go to some of these venues like here in Del Rio to compete, and to go out there and go look for that win.
So then also a little bit on the same topic of that, was it like going to big arenas like Madison Square Garden or the Staples Center where it's that history involved in other sports? Was it like being on that the same arena floor as like greats like Kobe Bryant?
Yeah, I think I take those in a little bit more than some of the Western history events. just because I think the way I grew up, my family is really basketball oriented. They love basketball. So like with my older brother and my dad and stuff. So I think that going to like Madison Square Garden, back in the day, Patrick Ewing and stuff like that, playing there and whatnot, and going to Staples Center, Kobe and Shaquille O'Neal duo when they had that, when they were back in the day, competing there and stuff like that. It's something that I really take in and kind of just try to remember. I'm not much of a picture taker. I don't really take a lot of pictures and videos of things. I like to just remember things through my eyes because I feel like that's the only way to do it and do it best, to remember it. But yeah, it is great. I think that all that history that's happened there throughout those big arenas, I think it's sometimes I sit there when I'm in there and I just imagine, the the finals games and stuff like that, the fade away from Kobe and stuff that he learned from Michael and just different things like that. And, just taking away little parts in history of sports and just kind of imagining it there, even though there is dirt and buck and shoots and Bulls and Cowboys in there at that point in time.
All right, so I want to go back to the 2018 topic. Was it like for you winning that Rookie of the Year that season, knowing that that is an award that you can only go for once in your lifetime, and they can't take that away from you? What is that getting that like?
I think that it's something that I hold special. To me, I know as I get older, I'll see it more and more special. But as of right now, I'm only looking for a world title. I was very grateful and had a lot of gratitude towards winning that. And, and like you said, it's only can be done once. And so being able to get that buckle and have that buckle around my waist, it means a lot. But at the end of the day, you're the best rookie, but unless you won the world title, you're not the best in the world. So it's kind of a mixed emotion deal. Like, you're happy to win it, but then also you're looking forward to becoming a world champion.
And then so your 2019 season, you didn't finish as great as that 2018 season was. Why do you think so many guys kind of have a sophomore slump after they either come on tour for the first time or win a world title?
I'm not quite sure. I know for me, I discussed this with my family and stuff. Statistically wise, it wasn't as great of a season, but riding wise, the bulls I covered that year, I covered a lot of bulls that I wouldn't have covered the year before. So I took a lot of positives out of that, possibly because I got cut for one event, and that kind of put a lot of realization in me. But I think that getting on the best bulls every single weekend, kind of puts wear on you, and you get in this routine of things, and versus you're used to it versus your first year or whatnot. You're excited, and every weekend you're taking it as the weekend, like as in like everything counts this weekend, which that's how it should be taken, pretty much every time. But I think that second season, you kind of either get nonchalant, too relaxed, or if you have a really good first season, then you're too hard on yourself the second season, and you're trying to do a lot of things, and a lot of things extra that you don't even need to do. You just go out and ride like you know how. So I think it's a mixture of either or, just depending on what kind of person you are. But for me, I didn't feel like it affected me too much. I just know statistically wise it did, but mentally wise, it didn't. I knew I was riding way better than I did the year before, just because looking back throughout the year, watching film of some of my other rides that I made that year, I was like, there's no way I would have rode these bulls the previous year that I won Rookie of the Year. I was riding way better, just didn't string them together as well. That's the only thing.
Do you think that's one of the biggest things that makes the sport such a mental game, also not just a physical game? That you could go from being one of the best in the world to then being back at the bottom?
Yeah, I think, I mean, everything's different pretty much every time. Everything changes every time pretty much. The thing is you got to control yourself, and all the things that you can control, you got to be aware of that. Other things you can't control, you got to just kind of keep it out of the way and not really worry about it. And I do think that's what kind of makes it difficult. I do believe that, you just got to not necessarily just keep going. You got to always adapt and adjust, but keep the mindset on a path of progress. That's the main thing.
All right, so I want to move ahead to last year. What is it like getting to compete in the Global Cup for Team Wolves, the Native American team? Even though you guys didn't do that great, was it like being a part of that team where it's like one of the very few Native American teams known to the world, or the first?
Yeah, being able to represent my people, and even though we didn't do that well, we do know that we can do better. It was something to be sure to like take with pride. We had a lot of fans on our side, had a lot of people on our side, and a lot of support. So being able to, if we do be able to come back to that, I know that our team will do great. It's one of the only team formats that bull riding has, and it's something that you look at and you're prideful for, just because you're representing not only yourself this time, but you're representing nations of Native Americans.
What do you think kind of like has made the team aspect of bull riding lately, like the team challenge, Chad Berger's event back in 2019, and yeah, the Globe Cup? Why do you think it has created such bigger moments in a short amount of time?
I think I think just like any team sport, because at a normal individual event, riders, competitors, comes down to one guy and whatnot. But there in a team aspect, every guy, it matters pretty much. Like every ride from every guy matters, versus a normal event. It's just, okay, one guy got on, he rode, that's great, he made a good ride, and the next guy gets on, he bucks off. Then it's like, okay, well, he bucked off, that's not good. But team event, if you have a certain team you're pushing for, you want every single one of those guys to ride. So it's definitely has a lot more, I guess you could say, suspense to it per se, versus just an individual. And then even then, sometimes it does come down to a single individual on that team to make it or break it to whether the team wins or not. So I think it adds a lot of different factors into helping it be something worth watching, and also being fun around. You have a group of guys that you enjoy being around, that everybody rides good. It makes it a very fun event.
So as you said, even though you guys didn't do that good, what was it like seeing Team USA Eagles take that event win on home soil?
For my aspect of things, as a competitor, I wanted our team to win. So for me, it was kind of let down that my team didn't win. But as a friend perspective, I was very happy for a lot of the guys there, that then they deserved it. They rode very well. So, at the end of the day, we rode bad, they didn't. And, they won and we didn't. So very happy for them. But as a competitor, look forward to try to win it next time.
So this is going to be another one of my questions later on, but when you see something like that happen, does that just fuel the fire that makes it that you want to be right there where they're at?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I think if that doesn't affect you in a way where you don't want to be there, you probably shouldn't be an athlete. You probably shouldn't be a competitor if there's somebody that's beating you and you're okay with that. I mean, I know that winning necessarily completely in life isn't everything, but in bull riding it is. So if you're a bull rider and an athlete and competitor, winning is pretty much everything.
So that event, there was a huge battle between Australia and USA Eagles, and even Canada the first night and first part of that Sunday. going back and forth, and then 2019, the battle of Jose and Jess going at it. Was it like seeing heated battles like that?
It's definitely something very interesting. From an outside point looking in, and from my standpoint, I try to take away valuable lessons in that and try to learn from that and try to see what they do, because that's the shoes I'd rather be in than on the sidelines. I'd rather be competing for that title against somebody. I think competition is what makes it fun, even though people might look at it as stress and pressure. I mean, that's what makes it even more fun. I mean, there's already enough, on the line when you crawl on the back of a bull, but when you add that little extra competition in there, I think that's what we all live for, is, having that right there where somebody's right hot on your heels or you're chasing somebody, and, all you gotta do is ride, and you keep riding and stringing them together. I think it's fun. I don't see why it wouldn't be. I think it makes events, and it makes life much more interesting that way, rather than if there was only one winner every time, and stuff like that. It kind of goes back to the lion and gazelle. The gazelle doesn't have motivation without the lion and stuff like that. So it kind of goes back to that.
So to move back to 2020 season, how weird was it going from a month later from the Global Cup to then Duluth, Georgia with no fans?
Yeah, that was an interesting time. You know, that event, not really knowing exactly how everything was going to go down, showing up and the next thing there was no fans. It was something new, so I took it pretty lightly. We didn't think it was going to last very long. And so it was like a very glorified practice pin, a ranker practice pin. And it was interesting. But then as time went on and realized that fans still can't attend, you know, it became not necessarily hard to find that extra gear for a motor, but it was just kind of like, having the fans there is what makes it even more fun. And so we enjoy having fans. So it was a little different, but just like all the other sports, we adapted and adjusted and was able to uh, provide for our families, and then also provide entertainment for the fans out there that enjoy the sport of bull riding.
So even though people may not see it, was it like being a part of history, knowing that the PBR was the last event to go off, and then was it like being the first event back in Guthrie, and also being the first event to basically be like a bubble?
Yeah, I think it was something very interesting. I was very thankful that we were able to still compete and still work. Um, us guys, this is how we make our living, and we might not be getting paid as much as other sports do. So just trying to be able to keep going really helped us out a lot, and be able to keep on competing really kept that fuel in our tank to keep pushing and stuff like that, rather than going home and worrying about a bunch of different things that, we would have to pay for and things like that. And so, or where to go next. So it was definitely uh, a, a point in time to be thankful for, to be able to, for PBR to have that.
So, yeah, speaking of that, how thankful are you that Sean Gleason and the PBR was able to think of a plan so quickly compared to other sports to bring guys back?
Yeah, I think it was a tremendous plan. I thought it was great. Taking all the precautions and stuff. I, I think that being the headway in that for sports really helped not only us, but helped out the whole community of sports, and to be able to have other athletes compete still. I think it was a very good thing. And, you can't do anything but be thankful for that opportunity.
So one of the events in Guthrie, there's a Slack before the TV show, and you're in that Slack event. Did you mean to do that, or how did that go?
No, there's a I think, I don't know how many guys extra we had, but there was extra guys riding there. And they just did, I think they did a random draw. And from that draw, it was a select few guys that had the ride early that morning. I believe it was like at 8 a.m., something pretty early, or 9, I want to say. And that was probably the earliest I've been on in a long time. But yeah, it was something different. I think the last time I got on that early, which isn't too long ago, was back in high school, but seems long ago. But yeah, it was something different. Trying to wake up and try to get the motor going at that point in time. It's just, you're feeling lackadaisical. Your muscles are still kind of lazy, so you kind of run around, warm up really good, really get things going, making sure that your body's functioning, your mind's functioning. And I rode pretty good that morning, so it kind of made me think, well, maybe we should start having these events in the morning.
All right. So what was it like being part of the Monster Energy Team Challenge and being on Jose's team?
Being on the Monster Energy Team Challenge was definitely something that I found exciting. And the way the teams were made is team captains, and Jose was ours. Every team had a team captain. And from then on, they selected team members. And, for Jose to pick me, I was very surprised. I do talk to him, but not quite as much as, his other Brazilian friends. So being able to be part of that team, I was, pretty intrigued and pretty interested in, just being around Jose and being around Sage Kimsey and Stetson Lawrence and stuff. Some of the older guys, except for Jose, we're around the same age, but as good as he rides, just being around guys that are confident within their abilities and stuff. Uh, you really pick up things. I'm not really much of a question asker guy. I just observe. I don't really ask questions. I like to observe, and then from then on apply it to my life the way I want. So being around those guys was it was pretty cool. It was very interesting, and it did boost a lot of confidence in myself.
So you being on that team, that was the team that ended up winning it. Was it like going to Sioux Falls for the championship event of the team challenge where the fans are back and you get to walk up onto that shark cage as the winning team?
Oh, it was a fantastic feeling. Going into that whole team challenge and going into Sioux Falls, me being one of the younger guys, and I guess you could say on that team being one of the less, I don't want to say qualified, but, I have less winning experience on the PBR on that team. The last thing I was looking forward to is being looked at as a downfall. And going into the event, Sioux Falls, I wanted to make sure that my team knew that I was there to ride and there to win, just like they were, and I do ride just as good as they do, and know that I'm here and ready when they need me. So being able to go there and then perform well and actually take part with the team, I think that's one of the biggest things that helped us, is that we had a really well-rounded team. Everybody on our team rode well. Everybody on our team took care of business. And so, when we did stand up on that shark cage, I think that everybody was pretty happy, because we knew that as a team, we were able to actually, win the event.
Do you think that's one of the moments in the year, though, that everybody basically stopped and said Jose is going to be the world champion this year?
I'm not quite sure. I mean, I know at that point in time he was riding really hot. I think he maybe only bucked off one bull during that team challenge, I want to say. But yeah, I mean, watching him go there and ride and do what he does best, you definitely see why he is one now.
So, just out of curiosity, with Jose coming here in 2017 and doing so good in such a short amount of time, you think that's one of the things that makes people think that they got to work at it so much harder? Because you got somebody like Jose that's in Brazil right now, getting so good at this, and that can come here to take everybody, almost anybody's spot.
Yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of guys get pretty comfortable, and he's the one to not get comfortable. So yeah, I mean, you got guys like him that are talented but also work hard. I think that that's what's coming up. That's what this whole sport. That's what we want in the sport, and that's what the sport's going to be and grow into, is guys that are talented and work hard, not just guys that are just talented but don't put in the extra work. So we're really turning the sport into an athletic sport even more so, and then turning it into a really top tier sport where there's bulls out there that buck really hard that people think that can't be ridden, and we're top 35 guys in the world. Any one of us can get on them and ride them.
So how much can you say that this sport has really changed since it went from like a wild and reckless side to now everybody is an athlete? They're in the gym focusing on so much more than just their riding. How much can you say that this sport has changed since it originally started?
Oh, it's changed a lot. It really has. I mean, a lot of guys putting in that extra work, and because a lot of the guys know that there's other ones out there that are working hard, that are taking care of their bodies and making sure that their bodies feel good and that the top tier level that it can be, and then working on the fundamentals and working on their craft. So it's definitely changed, versus before, because the guys are getting better and the bulls are getting better. So in that aspect of things, the rider's going to have to get better.
Right. So shortly after the team challenge was Chad Berger's event in Bismarck, North Dakota, where all of his bulls showed up to the Unleash the Beast. What does that say about a guy like Chad, and what does that say about the bull business growing so much that Chad was able to bring all the bulls to an Unleash the Beast event?
Yeah, that's very historic. I think, he has a lot of great bulls. He has a lot of good bulls to get on, and a lot of bulls that are, world title competitors. So having that history there and that moment, having that point and having history made like that, that was pretty spectacular. I mean, congrats to him and his program and what he's done with it, starting from his father and such. And so, that's something that I think he should be able to. I know that he'll remember the rest of his life. I mean, it's outstanding to know that there's a stock contractor out there that can pretty much hold his own event. I mean, there's a handful of stock contractors out there that can do that, but him being one of them, for sure, it's awesome.
So speaking of the growth in one part of the sport, how great is it to see that so many other parts of the sport has grown, like the PBR going to bigger markets like New York and Los Angeles, or like JB getting things on Monster Energy, or like UBF bullfighter Justin Josie going on TBS last week? Was it like seeing so much growth in bull riding and also in rodeo as a whole?
I think it's amazing. I think it's something that we all want, and we all feel like we want the sport to go in the future. We only want it to grow. A lot of people put a lot of effort, time into this sport, not only just competitors and riders and stock contractors, but also the people that are managing these companies and stuff like that, and all the people that work here. So to have it grow and grow bigger and bigger, I think that it amazes me, and it also it it makes me excited for what the future holds for this sport.
So I'm just curious now. So with this sport also growing so much, that means so does the production and so does the beginning pyro. What is it like for you standing behind the curtain when that loud crack of pyro goes off for the first time?
It just depends if I'm paying attention or not. If I'm paying attention, it's awesome. If I'm not, it might scare me. But no, it's pretty cool. You know, it's it gets you fired up, it gets you ready to go, gets your motor going. And so that's when, you learn your mental side of things, whether if you're in the first section, you kind of let it run a little bit. And if you're not, if you're way towards the bottom, you just kind of make sure you stay calm. You gotta make sure you reserve your mental energy a little bit more and wait to save it for later. But yeah, it's awesome. It's definitely gets gets energy flowing, gets positive vibes flowing, and gets you ready to go.
So, kind of speaking of that a little bit, how funny is it knowing that just because of Stetson Lawrence walking through the fire and getting shafts lit on fire, how funny do you think it is that that's how he found his name, the Firewalker?
Oh, Stetson, yeah, it's yeah. I mean, he's a character, so I imagine him taking that up. I'm sure he didn't have a problem taking that up, so it's pretty funny. You know, joke about it a little bit.
So I want to go back to 2020. Later in the years, the finals back at AT&T Stadium. You have a tremendous finals. You won round 2, and then you go round 5 and you win it on Chiseled. What's it like making that big ride like that?
It's that's what you live for. That's those times that when you're a kid you dream of, the times that you might watch somebody else when you're a kid and you watch somebody else do that and you're like, man, I wonder what that feels like. And, you know, be able to have that feeling of, you know, the last bowl of the event and you have one that you can win the round on, you know, it's something that you take in and you accomplish an 8-second ride and you do end up winning the round. You you get excited, you cherish it, but then also if you did not win the world title, then you look towards yourself, you look yourself in the mirror and say, what am I doing? Well, I should be a world title contender if I can ride these suckers. So you don't look at yourself as a downfall, you look at it as like, okay, well, I can gain from here. I have the opportunity, I have what it takes to be up on the top. So it's kind of like a mindset of keep going and don't let up and don't slow down.
So what is that feeling like getting on like Chisel? Like how did he feel to you?
Yeah, it's different. You know, you feel a lot more of the power. You feel just depending on the way bull bucks, but yeah, you feel a lot more of the power. They throughout the whole ride, you have to put out that 100% effort. You know, there's some bulls you ride that, you know, you at the beginning they're really bucking, and then towards, you know, 4 or 5 seconds they kind of weaken and slow down a little bit and level off, and so you can kind of take it easy just a tad. But with a bull like him, you know, usually around 4 or 5 seconds he's just warming up, and you got to really kind of keep finishing. And so being able to get on him and feel the way he feels and how he bucks, he gets really high up in the air and stuff like that. You know, you just go. You're not necessarily thinking. You're not necessarily like trying to game plan anything. You're just reacting off of what he does and make matching moves with him. So, but the feeling is in the way the bull bucks is a lot different than some bulls, because you do feel a lot more power or speed and a lot more of everything from a bull standpoint.
So in my opinion, that's a big example of the sport to never give up and never let go till your head hits the ground. Because like you went in the finals, not in the world title race at all, but you did so great. It bumped you all the way to third in the world at the end of the finals. You think that's a big example just to never quit in the sport or at anything?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you know, there at the finals is it's time to win it. You make it your time. You don't go and say you hope it's your time. You go out and you make it your time. So yeah, I mean, whether or not you're there to compete for a world title or you're not, I mean, that's your time. I think that's how every event should be taken. And you know, you're never out of the race unless you want yourself out of the race. So you keep going and you go at it with some tenacity, and you don't give up. You don't look at yourself as out for the count. You just look at it as I'm here to win, just like they are. You might not be able to go for a world title, but you go there to win. That's for sure.
So was it like being at the finals at AT&T Stadium? And then also, was it like knowing that again, being part of history, that you're one of the very few sports this year that completed its goal to go a whole entire year with fans?
Yeah, the World Finals at AT&T. I thought it was great. You know, there in Texas, a lot of educated fans there as well, and Western lifestyle. They appreciate Western sports, so I thought it was great to have it there. It did kind of feel more like Global Cup or Iron Cowboy, but rather than Vegas, because Vegas always has that World Finals feel. But it was still good, and to be able to have a full season and end up at the World Finals having fans, it was great to see, have fans, that energy in the air from the fans. It really helps feed the rider, and it makes you feel really good when you make a qualified ride.
So speaking of the fans a little bit, you think that's kind of one thing that shows how good of a fan base this sport has, knowing that it has had to go from so many different places and it's still packed. And then once AT&T hit, well, the finals hit, you just have everybody coming in from different parts of the country. Like example, I'm from Maryland and I actually ended up going. You think that's a big example of how big this fan base is?
Oh, no doubt. I think that PBR has a great set of fans and that are committed, that love the sport. And I think that's one thing that is different, than some other sports is, you know, our fans generally are very, very committed, and they come in no matter how far, what the distance or what's going on. They're there to cheer on their favorite rider or their favorite bull or both. And so I think it's great to have a fan base like that, and because now there's not other sports have that, and to be able to have fans that cheer for you, good or bad, I think that's something that's special.
You think that you think like with PBR having you guys like in a normal year signing autographs on the arena floor and like having like meet and greets on the concourse in a normal year is one of the things that makes it such a good thing for fans knowing that you're interacting with a rider no matter who you are.
Yeah, I think the fan accessibility to riders or to competitors is a lot more in our sport than any other sport, and I feel like that's why a lot of fans like us, is because they can actually see our personal side a little bit more than, or I should say, a lot more than other sports. So I think that's always good, and especially for a normal year, being able to sign autographs for the fans. I like being able to be there for the younger kids that have dreams and aspirations of being a bull rider, or maybe not even a bull rider, but you know that have dreams and aspirations to want to accomplish whatever they want to accomplish. But at that point in time, they look at a bull rider and see a bull rider being able to chase his dreams in that arena. I think they can use that and stuff. But yeah, I think that is a great thing for the fans of the PBR and the athletes.
All right, so I want to move back to the 2020 topic. After the finals, it was the event on the USS Lexington for the Cowboys for a Cause. What is it like going to that event on an aircraft carrier?
It was very unique. I mean, you never think, oh yeah, I'm gonna go ride bulls on an aircraft carrier. So yeah, I think it is a unique event. It's something that I don't know if it'll ever take place again. If it does, well, our group of guys were the first guys to do it. But yeah, I think the main thing behind that was for the cause, and I think that's what makes it even more special behind the actual format that it was placed on. So being able to make qualified rides and support a charity for the veterans definitely means a lot. And then the icing on top is just the fact of the matter is we got to ride bulls on top of aircraft carrier that traveled the world.
I think that's also one thing that makes the PBR so great is that it blocks out everything going outside of the events. It just is something that brings people together.
Yeah, I think that PBR is great in that aspect of things. It kind of goes with the be cowboy slogan. I mean, anybody's cowboy. It doesn't matter who you are as long as you take care of business and stuff like that. So I think I think that's a great thing for PBR. That's what it represents is, and I think that the group of guys that put that on, I think that put that on are able to produce that a lot, and we're able to, like you said, block out the outside world a bit of all the struggles and trials of what's going on, and have a point in time where it's just joy. And I think that's the best thing there is, because happiness brings people together as well.
All right. So to the topic of 2021 now, even though you got into the second day championship round in Ocala off of buck off time, you did record the first 90-point ride of the new season. What was it like being able to start off the season like that?
I think it means a lot to me. Looking towards that direction, because I only want to go up. I know the capabilities that I have. And so, being able to start that off, had a good start there, and then kind of moved on to slowing down a tad. But looking forward to this weekend and starting back up and going up on the climb. But to be able to have the first recorded 90, I think that has, for me, it has a lot to do with how this season's going to go for myself in the right direction, in the abilities that I have.
So just kind of curious, speaking of this weekend in Del Rio, there's chances of freezing rain a little bit tomorrow, and then the temperatures are going to be a little bit lower than you'd want. Does anything kind of like change your game plan a little bit, knowing that it might be a little bit different weather like that, or not really?
Uh, Not really. I mean, for the most part, you still got to do the same thing, stay in the middle for 8 seconds. But, maybe just the way you heat up your rosin, or the type of rosin that you use, or maybe you warm up a little bit more. And maybe you try to take in precautions on making sure your board rope doesn't get wet or anything like that. So for the most part, it's all the same, the actual competing side, but it's just the little things get leading up to the actual ride. That's the only difference.
How difficult is it though when you're competing somewhere where it is raining and the rosin does start to slide off? How difficult is it competing like that?
It can be very difficult, especially depending on the type of grip that you have. Some guys have bad hands, some guys have really good grips, so it doesn't really affect them. Some guys ropes really pull down and won't let them go really, and some guys ropes, their hand can come right out really easy. So I think that it can affect that aspect of things, because we are getting on bulls that do buck really hard, and the bulls don't care what the weather looks like. But yeah, I think in that kind of way of things, it can affect somebody, especially in that rosin and the sticky department, because the bulls are still going to buck hard. It's just whether or not you ride it, how you ride. So I think in that area it can affect it, but for the most part, it shouldn't affect anything too much. You still got to ride bulls front to back, keep one leg on each side for 8 seconds, and stuff like that.
So many people in this sport has had some kind of challenges to get here. What kind of grind has it taken for you to get to the point where you're at today?
If I was gonna go there, that's a long story. It's taken a lot. It's taken my whole life. Didn't have a childhood like some other kids, always playing all the time. I had to put in hours, and you know 4:30 a.m.s into 3 days, to skipping out and going to places, parties, whatnot, and hanging out with family. So it definitely, I definitely had to surrender a lot, but I wouldn't change anything, um, because this is the life I love. And I had to put in a little bit more extra, because I'm not as talented as some guys. I had to work on my skill a lot to get it to where it is now, and I still got a lot of skill to work on. So it did definitely take a lot of time and energy and effort, and support from family and friends to get to this point. And I'm thankful for I'm thankful for the talent that I do have. I'm thankful for the effort that I put in myself, and I'm thankful for the family members that I have that supported me, and the friends that were always willing to be there and know when I need to get on bulls, or there to just say, you got this.
Did you ever think when you were younger there's going to be a day that your riding took off so much that you're able to put on a sponsor like the U.S. Border Patrol?
Yeah, when I was younger, it was it got to the point when I was younger, it wasn't if I was gonna make it to the PBR. It was just a fact of matter of when I'm gonna make it. And then once I realized I have the abilities to make it and I have the drive, it was one of those things that, okay, well, now it's time to get to the top. How do I get there? But to be able to have the Border Patrol team to wear the logo, to represent the country and, represent the land of my people and protect, it definitely is something special to me. I enjoy representing the Border Patrol, and I enjoy being able to put on my gear every time I get on.
All right. So compared to many other sports, this sport is so different, especially in the ways of nobody wants to see anything bad come from somebody. What is it like being a part of the sport where no matter what part of it you're doing, could be a rider, could be a bull owner, could be production even. What is it like being a part of a sport where everybody just wants to see the best in you?
I think it's fantastic. I mean, at the end of the day, it is still competing. So there's always going to be that little bit of, good or bad kind of deal. But for the most part, there is a lot of positivity, and I do enjoy that quite a bit. I mean, you could have a guy, that's leading the round or whatever, leading the event. He'd be your best buddy, and he'd make a bull ride, and he'll come right behind the chute and go pull your bull rope for you and hope that you win, that you're traveling with. So I think that's something that's different. That's way different than any other sport that really separates us. And I think that's fantastic. I think that's a great thing.
All right. So, with so many challenges involved in this sport, not just physically but mentally, and even the thought of that you might not even make it out alive in this sport, how much does your faith help you get through everything that this sport can bring you?
I think the faith has been the foundation of who I am. So I think that it plays a very high key into my writing and into my daily living. So that right there, you lay it all out there in this sport every single time, and knowing who has your back at the end of the day is something that comforts and brings courage to you.
All right. And then the last question I got for you tonight: whenever everything in the sport for you does come to an end, what legacy do you hope to leave behind in this sport?
I look to leave behind a legacy of hard work, dedication, and joy. Joy for the sport, joy that brought joy and happiness to people, and the fact that the hard work and dedication and belief leads to success. And you don't need extra things. You don't need everything to be good. You don't need the most talent to be good. You just need to have those few things right there to make it. And you can come from anywhere. It don't matter who you are or where you're from.
All right. Thank you, Keyshawn, for joining me tonight. I appreciate it. Good luck in Del Rio tomorrow.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And I'm proud, man.
Yes.
I hope everything goes well for you this weekend. I hope everything goes well for you in the season.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, have a good night, Keyshawn.
Yes, sir. You take care.